Hola, this video is to review using ordinal numbers to discuss the schedule and using adjectives to describe classes and teachers. By the end of this video, you should be able to discuss a class schedule using ordinal numbers and use the 7 Spanish adjectives to describe classes and teachers. The vocabulary we will focus on is using yo tengo, la clase de, en la blank hora, and la clase es, including the adjective. First, we'll focus on using ordinal numbers to discuss the schedule. This is the vocabulary that you have in your chapter that we will review. First, let's review las clases. There are 8 classes outlined in this chapter that you will have to memorize. Most of these are cognates. Remember that cognates look similar in English and in Spanish based on their pronunciation and their spelling and their meaning. We have la clase de arte, la clase de español, la clase de ciencias naturales, la clase de ciencias sociales, la clase de educación física, la clase de inglés, la clase de matemáticas, and la clase de tecnología. Remember that in Spanish, unlike in English, the order is switched when saying the subject. For example, we would normally say art class, but in Spanish, you must use la clase de before arte. Please make sure that you know the difference between ciencias naturales and ciencias sociales. Notice that social is in sociales. Hopefully this will help you to remember that ciencias sociales is social studies. What are ordinal numbers? Ordinal numbers show the order or position of something or someone. I could say, in the race, I came in second place, but you can't say, in the race, I came in 2nd place. So for Spanish, we're not going to use your class schedule in talking about it. We're not going to say dos hora. We're going to learn, how do I say second? In Spanish, when discussing the schedule, we're describing la hora, or the hour. Since la hora is feminine, all ordinal numbers must also be feminine when you're just talking about your schedule. This is an example. Tengo la clase en la segunda hora. This means I have the class in 2nd hour. Notice that la segunda and hora all end with the letter A, which is a feminine ending. Now let's look at ordinal numbers in particular. Primera means first. Think primary as the first number. Segunda is second. Notice that both Spanish and English start with SE. Tercera is third. Both English and Spanish ways to say third start with the letter T. Cuarta is fourth. This looks like cuatro, but the spelling is different. Please make sure to spell this the right way. Quinta is fifth. Think quince to remember this number. Sexta is sixth. Notice that this number has the letter X in it, just like the number 6. Séptima is 7th. Octava, 8th. Novena, 9th. Décima, 10th. Notice that octava starts with OCT. Think of an octopus or an octagon. All of these things have 8 related to it as well. You can use the phrase yo tengo to talk about classes that you have, teachers that you have, lunch, or homework. Yo tengo la clase de música en la 10ª hora. Es fácil. This means I have music class in 10th hour. It is easy. In addition to talking about your classes and when you have them, You can talk about teachers using yo tengo. Yo tengo una profesora divertida para la clase de español. I have a fun teacher for Spanish class. Yo tengo el almuerzo a las 12:30. I have lunch at 12:30. Notice that you are not going to say la clase de el almuerzo. Remember, la clase de means class, and almuerzo is lunch. Most students make this mistake when we're learning that you have to use la clase de when talking about your schedule, but you don't want to say I have lunch class. Yo tengo mucho tarea. Es difícil. I have a lot of homework. It is difficult. All of these things you can use yo tengo with or I have. When we're talking about our schedule, you may be asked, in what hour do you have a specific class? In Spanish, you say this as en qué hora. You respond with starting with en or in. For this example, ¿en qué hora tienes la clase de arte? Here, tienes means do you have. In what hour do you have art class? A response is, yo tengo la clase de arte en la segunda hora. I have art class in second hour. Remember that when we're looking at the hour and the ordinal number, la, segunda, and hora, they're all feminine, so they match and agree. Now it is your turn to practice. This is the format that you should use. Start with tengo, I have, la clase de, and then the class that you're talking about. Inglés, in this example, English. En means in. La primera hora is first hour. So you would say la, and then primero could be substituted for whichever ordinal number you're talking about, whatever hour of the day, and then hora would remain at the end. Remember, if you're talking about lunch, you're not going to say tengo la clase de el almuerzo. You're just going to say, I have lunch, tengo el almuerzo, en, and then which hour you have it. Please look at the image of el horario, the schedule. Look at la hora and la clase and answer the questions. Now that we've reviewed your schedule, we're going to quickly review adjectives used to describe classes and teachers. This is the vocab that you will need to look at for this part of the chapter. There are 7 describing words that we will have to memorize in order to describe teachers and classes. Remember that adjectives in Spanish and English can describe both classes and people. I can be describing a gym class or my professor. Adjective word endings must agree with the subject or the noun that they are describing. Since Spanish is a gendered language, this could be masculine or feminine. This example, aburrido, has an O, but it also has an A next to it, shows that depending on what you're describing, you can change the ending. La clase de educación física es divertida. How do I know that I have to end divertida with the letter A? It's because I'm describing la clase. Since la clase is feminine, divertida must be feminine as well. On the other hand, el profesor is masculine. So if I'm describing him, divertido, that he is fun, it should also be masculine. Remember that you cannot change adjective endings that end with the L or an E. Examples here are difícil and interesante. You are not going to erase the ending and change it. You're just going to leave it alone. So if I want to say math class is difficult, I will say la clase de matemáticas es difícil. Here are the 7 adjectives. Aburrida, boring. Difícil, difficult, divertida, fun and amusing, fácil, easy, mi favorita, my favorite, interesante, interesting, and práctica, practical or useful, something that you will use later in life. You have the option to say la clase es or la clase no es. Also, you could say el profesor es or el profesor no es, depending if you want to say something is or is not the adjective that you're describing. Here are some practice. ¿Te gusta la clase de ciencias naturales? No me gusta. La clase no es. Based on the picture, how would you answer this question? No me gusta. La clase no es divertida. I don't like it. Science class is not fun. Divertida is how I say fun. ¿Te gusta la clase de español? Sí, me gusta. La clase es. Based on the picture, which word would you use to fill in the blank to describe la clase de español? Sí, me gusta. La clase es interesante. Yes, I like it. Class is interesting. ¿Te gusta la clase de ciencias sociales? No me gusta. La clase es muy blank. Which word would you use to fill in the blank to describe la clase de ciencias sociales? Aburrida. No me gusta. La clase es aburrida. I don't like it. Science or social studies class is boring. Another way that you could use this in order to describe classes, the question could be, ¿Cómo es la clase? How is the class? You would respond with la clase es, and then insert the adjective at the end, making sure that it is feminine so it agrees with la clase. ¿Cómo es la clase de arte? How's art class? La clase de arte es divertida, pero no es muy práctica. What does this mean? Art class is fun, but it is not very practical. ¿Cómo es la clase de matemáticas? How is math class? La clase de matemáticas es fácil, pero es aburrida. What does this statement mean? Math class is easy, but it is boring. ¿Cómo es la profesora? La profesora es mi favorita. ¿Cómo es el profesor? El profesor es. Which adjective would I use to fill in the blank? Here, please note that el profesor, the noun or subject, is masculine. So the adjective in this blank should also be masculine. ¿Cómo es la clase de educación física? Which adjective would I use to fill in the blank based on the image? La clase de educación física es. Please make sure that this is feminine because it is describing la clase. ¿Cómo es la clase de tecnología? La clase de tecnología es. Based on the picture, which adjective would you use to fill in the blank? ¿Cómo es la clase de? Which class would we describe as interesante based on the picture?